Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Epik Mellon podcast. It's the middle of the summer, and I don't know what day it is anymore, but we're going to keep doing this. And I have with me Keith Parsons, who is like one of the Wi-Fi gurus out there in the world that I've always kind of wanted to get on the show. Obviously we've had a bunch of different Wi-Fi people on the show with many different opinions about things. But of all the people that I felt like I should have had on the show for a while and haven't yet, Keith is definitely one of them. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, I'll try to not have any opinions then. I'll just take facts. No. Yeah.
This, as everybody knows, the Epik Mellon is brought to you by the good people at QA Cafe, my employers, and so the views expressed by myself or Keith do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its leadership. And Keith, it's up to you whether your views reflect you or not. Does WLAN, because WLAN Partners is your company, right?
Yes, Wireless LAN Professionals is a company I started maybe 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more descriptive than anything else. I couldn't think of a unique name, so I just, that's what we do.
No. Those are the rules of marketing. You either have to make something totally nonsensical that has nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's just cute and catchy, or you have to say exactly what it is. You can't go in the middle.
and it's worked for a while now, so I'm not going to change it.
Yeah, there you go, right? And as such, this show is brought to you by our three great products at QA Cafe, the first being CD Router, the industry standard test platform for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi devices, and other customer premises equipment, with over 11,000 test cases written by industry experts out there who are deep in the standards, like myself, that is fully automated, works with your CI/CD system, and helps you build better products overall. The second being CloudShark Enterprise, which is our enterprise-grade answer to packet capture analysis, letting you deploy the tools that you know and love in a way that makes it so everybody in a global organization can work together, make sure that secure files don't cross boundaries they're not supposed to. And now with the Deep Search API, really make packet captures a part of your entire automation workflow. And lastly is Packet Viewer, the power behind CloudShark, which lets you add Wireshark functionality to any web-based cloud managed networking or cybersecurity product. You can find more about these things at www.qacafe.com. Totally memorized.
Well, that was good, and now I want to go dive into those things.
See, it worked.
It worked.
All right. Yeah. So, you've been doing this for a while, and I've been following you for a while. And so one of the things we always ask on the show is sort of like how it is that you even got into it's very interesting for me because the fact that certain technologies become their own thing to the point where there are entire industries and industries of professionals around one particular technology is fascinating to me. And Wi-Fi is probably one of the greatest examples of that. So I'm curious how it is that you even got to doing what you're doing, having the company you've had for 15 years and stuff like that. So,
well, I'll go on the way back machine, and I started doing Novell, and then Microsoft, and then Cisco, and then security, and then pen testing, and then wireless is just one of the things I was chasing. And at the time, I was working with a lady by the name of Laura Chappell. She does packet level analysis. Yeah, Wireshark. Yeah. She's been around a long time. And I was producing her training, and we just finished a year of classes all around the country. And we're having a celebratory dinner in Times Square, top of the Marriott Marquis, going around and around. And she mentioned something about how much she made in consulting, and I was not anywhere near even in the ballpark of what she was making. And she goes, Keith, you just have to focus on something. As long as you're chasing everything. And she goes, okay, let's just decide. What do you like? I'm like, oh, I like the Microsoft. The Cisco's good. And she goes, no, just pick two. And I said, well, the cool things right now that I'm interested in are wireless and security. So she reaches into her purse, pulls out a quarter, and says, heads, it's Wi-Fi. And so for the last 20 years, it's been Wi-Fi.
The thing is, though, is out of all of the two things that you could come down to, those two things are so tightly knit that it wouldn't have been too much of a stretch, right?
Yeah. Actually, they're tightly knit, but the focus is, quite different.
Right, right. Cool, cool.
So that's
And
how I got into Wi-Fi.
yeah, and your background, like, did you end up doing any kind of technology stuff in school or before that?
No, I did finance, and then
Yeah,
I went back and got an MBA because I was tired of being pigeonholed into the tech guy. And
yeah,
then after my MBA, I went back and just did tech.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened for me, and that's what I find so interesting about networking, um, is that it's not that it's like that networking professionals can, and actually with cybersecurity too, can come from anywhere, right? And to talk about getting into things by accident, like flipping a coin is about as accident as you possibly.
But the fates were with me, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, right? You got to
Yeah.
trust the universe when you put that stuff out there. But yeah, because like and the thing that I like about networking technology, like I said, and especially when it comes to um, things you can learn by watching, especially if once you start to look at packet captures, for instance, right? Like, um, you can learn networking technology regardless of your background, right? If you want to go and start like actually coding stuff and like implementing it, things like that, that's one thing. But to understand it and be able to talk about it and be able to think strategically about it and be able to even participate in the creation of standards or the enhancement thereof or testing or any of those things, you can come from anywhere, right? It is something that anyone can learn and learn well.
Uh, uh, yes, that's true. Anyone can. And I've known lots of people with really varied backgrounds, from graphic designers to car mechanics, have got really good at networking. It does take focus, though.
Yeah,
You have to think about it, you have to study, and you have to accept the fact that it's not just easy. You got to think. I mean, the first time you open a Wireshark trace, you're just like, you have nothing. It's just scrolling by thousands of things, and then trying to even find a first pattern is hard. And so there's a lot there, but anyone can learn it.
right, right, right. I like the fact that like one of the things that was big for me, because I learned networking, partially from being in computer science for a while, but also because I worked at what was the interoperability laboratory at UNH. And
That would have a little bit to do with it.
yeah, right. But it wasn't necessarily related to what I was doing in school, right? Because I ended up actually doing philosophy, right? But the being able to look at things, see conversations going back and forth, understanding, the basics of the way that data is transferred and compressed and sent over the wire and why and how and the OSI stack and all those things. Seeing it, the being able to see it um, in when you're looking at packet captures or when you're looking at just state diagrams and things like that makes it click so much more easily, right? Like it's something you can actually like almost touch, like not really, but
So I was being interviewed by my daughter in school in third grade, and she's like, he figures things out.
yeah,
And the teacher's like, well, what does he do?
that's a really
And in front of me was like a lawyer and a fireman and a doctor, and everyone knew what they did. And then she just stares at me and like, he figures things out. So
yeah.
that's it.
I had to have that experience too because my oldest daughter had to explain. She was like, "What does your dad do?" He's like, "Well, my dad goes to bars to make rules for the internet."
That works too.
Right? Like, no, that's cool. And so, I mean, you've been able to see the evolution of this then. And actually, that's very cool that you came from finance too, because I'm always fascinated by sort of the evolution of things when it comes from the consumer's perspective, or, not just consumers, but, enterprise consumers too, and how technology ends up being actually used versus what it was intended for, versus the changes between A and B as that happens. And so you've seen that happen. And I'm curious about like how you've seen that evolution over the last 15 years or so, versus now, and how Wi-Fi itself is so ubiquitous and used for everything. It's not necessarily used for things that it was intended for, and now so we're all sort of picking up the
Yeah,
pieces. But
we're not picking up the pieces as much as we're just hamstrung from its original idea and plan and how it was working. And here we are 25 years later, and we still have to do listen before talk, and we still have collision domains and backward compatibility all the way back to the very, very first Wi-Fi. We still have to be backward compatible. We had this huge opportunity when we picked up 6 gig with 1200 megahertz of channel. No one had ever used it before. We didn't have to have a single thing that was backward compatible. We could have made Wi-Fi in 6 gig anything we wanted. And the chip manufacturers decided, we don't want to do that. We would like it to be backward compatible because it might hurt our cellular business and we make more profit on that. So we are not going to make new Wi-Fi protocol. So we now have the exact same protocol we had 25 years ago. All the downsides, all of the collisions, I have to wait for a time slot before I talk, because they were protecting their business.
I didn't realize that was the reason.
Yeah.
I always thought it was because people were super skeptical about whether or not, because technology takes forever a lot of times to be adopted, right? Especially when it comes to interoperability, and trusting everything to work long enough in a way that people be satisfied and not just give up on it is hard, right? But I didn't realize that it was because they would rather have, because they wanted their mobile chips in the 6 gigahertz space to be there instead.
Well, and not just in 6 gigahertz. It was more of the technology. There's a higher profit margin on the cell chips, and Wi-Fi chips are like literally less than $1. So the money is on the other side, which is also why adding a cell phone chip into a laptop is way expensive compared to adding Wi-Fi. So, I mean, there's licensing reasons for that. And, we had a chance, and it might have delayed the rollout of Wi-Fi in the 6 gigahertz, maybe 3-6 months. It wouldn't have been a killer, and it would have given us this brilliant thing. But yeah, it didn't happen that way. So here we are.
Yeah. That's crazy. And it's, I mean, I talk about this with IPv6, right? Where it's like, this thing is developed where it is the perfect solution for this particular problem. But
actually, the first one was, and since I'm an old Novell guy, it was really IPX was IPv6 before IPv6 happened. It was beautiful.
That was my first networking protocol, trying to get Warcraft to work.
I had this is a really sad story, but I think your listeners would like it. I worked at a company called the CNEPA. It was the Certified Novell Engineers, and they had a professional association, and we had a Class B IP pool that was ours. And yet at the time, Novell was going to rock the world, and they were building out an IPX network with AT&T to be nationwide IPX. And IPX is beautiful. It has a MAC address and a network address combined in one, and you only needed one address, and it had all the routing built. It was like what IPv6 turned into be. And at the time, I'm like, IP. We don't need IP. We have IPX. And so I traded a Class B address for 1 year T1 from our ISP. It was free. I saved money. I got a whole year of T1.
Yeah, which back then, if people don't know, was like thousands of dollars a month.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. The sad part is the company I sold it to is now a provider in my area. And whenever I look at my external IP address at my house, it's in that pool.
Oh,
So I get punished like, you were so stupid every single day.
it's like that sounds like a monkey paw curse. Like,
Yeah. It's like, no.
wow, wow, yeah, no, exactly, right, and yeah, this is so exactly. It's like yes, it could be the perfect technology, but it it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if what matters is what worked and what both from a consumer perspective and politically, right?
And that's
And
why we have Wi-Fi today. We have Wi-Fi
yeah,
because it's cheap, it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And my entire career has been based on the fact that Wi-Fi is easy to do, small. You go to Best Buy, you pick up a router, you plug it in, you have Wi-Fi in your house. The bigger your house, the harder it gets. You move it
hmm
up to a medical clinic and it gets more difficult. So as it scales, the complexity is exponential
right,
because
right,
because of all those stupid little things we were stuck with from the very beginning. It wasn't designed to do what we're doing, but because it was nearly free for everyone, it's in every device. Here's where we are.
right. Because it's
But
literally Ethernet over the air. And if people remember, the whole point of Ethernet was dealing with a shared medium. And they were like, wow, this sucks. So they got rid of the shared medium.
it's it's like we went back and we. I mean, you're old enough. You worked on hubs. It's like we said we have to use hubs all the time. We cannot ever use a switch. And where would our networks be if we were still on hubs everywhere? And that's where our Wi-Fi is.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But it works. But it works when it
Just
works. Right.
barely, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but that's why, which again, it's like, I make the joke sort of like, that line from Gladiator in the beginning when the emperor's like, so much for the glory of Rome, right? Like there's so much expense. I was like, so much for the glory of Wi-Fi. It's like when you think of how much, how much people spend on trying to fix the problems, how much people are getting paid to be Wi-Fi experts to fix people's problems. That's like, whoa, what is it actually cheaper? But from the consumer's perspective, I can go anywhere and turn this thing on and be connected to the internet.
And then it's become so successful that Wi-Fi in most people's life, it means internet. It
Right.
it
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
it's like even my wife, I mean, married to her for 44 years, love it. She still to this day says, "Oh yeah, the Wi-Fi is bad at house." I'm like, "Your computer is wired. I plugged you in so you couldn't say these words and you still say the words."
No, I mean, I try to explain just at the very basic level the difference between my phone being connected to the internet in the car while we're driving around versus my 6-year-old's iPad being connected, which does not have a mobile radio in it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, honey, you're not connected to the internet right now, right? She's like, oh, well, can you connect me to the Wi-Fi? But at least now she calls it the internet. So I'm very slowly trying to like,
It's the little baby steps, which is kind of
yeah,
why I wrote this app lately to give to people. So when they say the words, the Wi-Fi sucks or it's not working, they can at least hand over to their tech support documentation that says, well, the Wi-Fi was really good, but the internet was bad.
oh,
Or the
what
Wi-Fi
app is
was
that?
bad. What do you mean? What happens then? Oh, that.
No,
Well,
what
hopefully
what what
some.
app is that? What app is it?
Oh, it's an app called the Wireless LAN Professionals Toolbox. It's a
Cool.
toolbox we give for free. It has 170 tools in it, but just one of them I added. I call it the wife tool. I give it to her, and it actually worked. I was
Awesome.
out of town, and she calls me and she goes, "Your stupid app didn't work. It said the Wi-Fi is good and the internet's not working. I can't hit my web page." And I went, "Really? That's really important because you know what? The internet was down. It was physically down. Someone changed at my fixed IP address. They gave it to
Yeah.
someone else. So
Oh,
when I get home, I didn't have any internet. And
yeah.
yet her phone still had a little bit of cellular. So she was getting slow cellular internet, blaming the Wi Fi. And the app just told her, hey, you're getting 500 meg on the air to the access point, but you're getting nothing out to the internet.
Yeah.
And so she thought the app was broken.
That's great.
Like, that's exactly, it did exactly its job. Yeah. Yeah. So I developed it so people could, it's free. Anyone can have it. You can just give it to anyone who wants to play with Wi-Fi, and it will give you a report that says, is it Wi-Fi or is it internet? Because those are two different things.
Right. But it's like, again, from the consumer's perspective, it's not two different things. And so you run into, like you were saying, when things are scaling up. I'll talk about residential first. We can talk about enterprise Wi-Fi in a second. But when it comes to service providers, internet service providers who are trying to deliver a good experience and are the ones who are getting the problem calls, it's just obscene how much it is always a Wi-Fi problem, right? To the point where, right, like everything about what Wi-Fi Alliance is doing with data elements and what we're doing with managed Wi-Fi, which was proprietary at first, now being standardized by things like the Broadband Forum and USP and TR-181 and things like that. It's like I am proud and yet at the same time empathetic, right, to the fact of for the operators who are like, oh, the consumer is going to blame me anyway and thinks that the Wi-Fi is the internet, so I need to take ownership of this, right? I need to take ownership of this, right? And so they are, but like the statistics are staggering. It's like when something's wrong, it's almost always that problem.
But it's amazing how, I mean, we joke inside the IT world that it's always DNS or it's DHCP.
Right.
The consumers, it's always Wi-Fi. So I was doing some consulting with some VPs of some very large consumer-oriented ISP providers, and they're like, "Well, we figured out this way to get them to fix it," and they're all hemming and hawing. They're like, "What do you suggest, Keith?" So I said, "Okay, let's just do a little role play." And he was actually in charge of training all their staff to do the tech support calls. And so I pretend that I'm a user. I call it and say, my internet's terrible, the Wi-Fi is terrible. And then she walked through this script that they had, at the end of which was find the little box. It was cable company, and power it off, wait 10 seconds, power it back on again. If that works, then and then the problem's fixed. And so we walked through that script. And at the end, I said, now let's just do it again. You call me and I'll walk you through. And she's got a lot of practice at doing role playing. So she hits me pretty hard. And I just go, oh, that's so bad. On your phone, can you go to airplane mode? She goes, why? I said, just go to airplane mode. Turn it on, turn it off. If that fixes the problem, you didn't tell everyone, oh, power cycle our cable modem, it must have been our fault. You had them take their phone and basically just release and renew their Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if that fixed it, now the people blame their own phone. And the next time there's a problem, they don't have to call the cable company. They just go and airplane the mode themselves. She was
right, even though it's the same thing, right?
It's not the same thing, though. The net effect was either way, the phone's going to have to restart. But one blamed the cable company and one let the person solve it themselves and teach them that it works at my home, at the coffee shop, at any place I go. All I have to do is do that little release and renew. And it fixes, especially for those sticky clients that you're talking about. And they're sticky for a reason, by the way.
No, and that's fine. And I totally get it. Right. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, before we're getting on the show, there are some Mac users in this office who were very, very grumpy that there was another AP that their Mac kept sticking to. And so now in my nice little studio here, I have to use a wired connection. And it's fine. It's okay. But I find it funny that it's like rather than dealing with the Mac's problem and anybody writing about it and telling Apple to fix it, they're like, no, we'll just change our wireless infrastructure to deal with it.
That is the answer to solving Mac problems, because Apple has zero desire to change theirs, because by the way, all enterprises combined are not Apple's target audience. You
No.
just happen to be an adjunct to it. So they
Hmm.
make their decisions of how their Wi-Fi works definitely on purpose. It's not an accident that they do exactly what they do.
Yeah.
So I've designed for schools where knowing what Apple's going to do on iPads or MacBooks, we purposely make sure there is no coverage in the hallways. So when a client walks out of the room, it's forced to roam following what Mac wants to do. And then when they enter the next room, it roams to the one that's in the room. The problem is a lot of
Interesting.
K-12s put APs in the hallways, which is the very worst place for the way Macs work.
Right.
So you want it
It's
out of the hallways.
plus it's also the worst for where you're actually going to be using your laptop.
Yes, exactly. I mean, hotels do it as well. Oh, let's put them in the hallway. Why? How many people are sitting in the hallway using their watching a Netflix movie? It's just, well, it was easy to put them there. Okay, I agree that they're easier to put there, but that's not how Wi-Fi works.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. I always love the anecdote from UC giving to me
Hey, you
from
got that
Tomino
in one.
Wireless.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that I pronounced it correctly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, he was talking about stadiums and how
Hmm?
the reason they have to put an AP under almost every single chair is because we're humans made of water. When you fill it with 100,000 people, like all of a sudden,
I've done a lot of in our industry. We call those LPVs, large public venues. Uh, and we've gone through cycles. It was let's shoot down because the phone's in your hand and it's closest to go down to it. But a lot of stadiums don't have any vertical assets that we can put an AP to point down, or the angle is wrong. And so we went
right,
from down to under to stair the handrails on stairs sideways to back to top, and it's cyclical. It's the whole thing is how do we get this signal to one? I was working on one World Cup site, not this World Cup, the previous one, and the owner just asked how many APs does it need to cover this whole stadium? It was like 65,000 seats or something, and I said one, and he just laughed at me like, "What do you mean one?" I said one AP will cover the entire stadium. He's like, that's not true. There's no way. So we had a bunch of minions. They happened to be college students on break. And we had them go 200 of them into different sections. And they all could connect to one AP and get on the internet. In fact, one of the better tests for stadiums is you take one phone and you walk on the concourse to the opposite side of the stadium. And the two phones, one can be a cellular uplink and the other one can be a hotspot for it. And they can talk cleanly across the entire stadium.
wow, wow. Where was the AP then?
Oh, the AP we did in that test was just up in the rafters. It was one of the
Right.
locations we were going to use anyway. But and the point was the owner was like, there's no way. And so he wanted to prove I was wrong. And I proved that the one AP covers the whole thing. He goes, well, that's stupid. You can't have 65,000 people share one AP. And I said, you are absolutely correct. Well, you said only one cover. I said, one covers it. What you want to know is how do we get capacity? And now it means how do we change that so that one AP doesn't cover everything? We have to go to directional antennas, but the flip side of that
Right.
is the
Because then you
clients
have the
seeing each
opposite
other.
problem. Yeah.
Each client, every time a client in the stadium transmits, all the other clients in the entire stadium can hear it.
Right.
So and it's in a shared medium. That's just how it
Hmm.
works.
Yep. Yep. Man, that's crazy. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like the what that means. It's like one of the things that we sort of really try to get people to understand at QA Cafe when it comes to what. And again, this is consumer routers, different situation, but we'll go up one step and be like small enterprise APs kind of ubiquity kind of a situation, right? Um, the rest of the device matters, right? It's like we get really hyper focused, and especially if it's a room full of Wi-Fi engineers, they get really hyper focused on the Wi-Fi technology and the radio technology and the and the coverage and the distribution and all that. But the functionality of the device as a routing computer, right, and having to run all the protocols and being able, no, it can't do 65,000. So how many do you need? Can one of them do 200? Can one of them do 10? You know, and that's all based on like the power of and quality of the rest of the system that you have to like rigorously hammer to make sure that stuff like that doesn't happen.
It it it's a challenge, and it's given me 20, 25 years of a wonderful career answering those questions. And they're
Thank
not getting
goodness
any
we're
and
all
they're not
getting
getting
paid.
any easier. We now have I just did the last week I was working on an LPV, a large public venue. They had 8,500 users all hacking, not bad hacking, good hacking, programming, and they needed Wi-Fi. 8,500 people, and we don't have that. We don't have 8,500 different channels.
Right.
So how do we let them all use the network and not just collide the entire time? And we were
Right.
running channel utilization 85, 90%. I mean, there was no more capacity. Uh, so we used, I mean, that's Wi-Fi. And so we had a whole bunch of little switches laying around on the table saying, well, if you're having trouble, you might want to wire. Copper's still so good.
It's like, don't tell anybody. It's like, I had to actually have that argument at home because my teenager was in her room, and I knew it's because she had a crappy Wi-Fi card, but we are going to see if we could solve it another way first, right? And so I was like, oh, well, we'll just run a cable from the gateway to your room. And my wife's like, you're not drilling any holes in the floor. I'm like, but it's just one, and it's 50 feet long. It'll reach over there. It'll be fine. And yeah, no. So we just bought the Wi-Fi card. We bought a better Wi-Fi card, and everything's fine now.
Something I did back during COVID time, because executives would be working from home, having to do Zoom calls, and their kids were also home doing education or probably playing games, most likely. And their Wi-Fi they said the Wi-Fi is really bad. I'm like, okay, maybe, but I don't think that's the problem. It's a latency issue, and you're all sharing. And so we would go in and put little teeny ubiquity bridges made for outdoor, a point to
Mhm.
point. And one would go by wherever the router, the DMARC was coming in the house, and just point with a little directional antenna up to wherever their office was. And it was just a wireless wire. And so they weren't sharing. And then they plugged in their computer into this. So it was still wireless, but it was
Right,
just one hop wireless on an entirely different frequency than the whole rest of the house.
right,
And they're
right,
like,
right.
this is wonderful. Because they would keep buying. I have the best fiber I can buy, and it's still slow.
Yeah.
Your fiber's not slow. It's you're in a shared medium, and they're like, well, let's go buy some more. I don't want to be pejorative, but Eero or anybody else who has a mesh, and realize every mesh that you put in, it cuts your throughput in half. You add a mesh
Hmm.
hop, half throughput. And so people are like, I've like four of them. Okay, half of a half of a half, and you're wondering why you're slow. Uh,
Right, right,
and
right.
so just the straight dedicated point to point. So your wife probably would have approved the fact of putting this little teeny thing in your daughter's bedroom and another one down by where the DMARC was, and then you would have not have to buy a new Wi-Fi card.
Oh,
It probably
see,
would have
that
cost
is,
more though. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's,
So
no.
I built a house a couple years ago, and my house has 84 Cat 6 drops
Oh, that's
because
so
I'm
my best
I'm
friend.
a wireless guy, and I know that copper's better than Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like every
It's
the the guy who's installing the TV goes, how come you don't have coax here? I went, coax? Who uses coax? But I have at least 2 drops in every TV of Cat 6. And he's like, you're only going to watch. Yeah, I'm only going to watch that. Well, you don't have any telephones in the house. You're right. But I have jacks
yeah.
everywhere.
I think that that's more common than people even realize now. It's like, and it's funny because you can see the again talking about people being an expert in one technology for a long time. You can see you can still see sort of like the end of the evolution for telcos, right? Who know that they aren't going to get phone revenue anymore, right? but they still try, you know,
And
and that's where all the expertise was.
the crazy part was, for years now, there was cellular, and then there was cellular offload. So the cellular companies would like you to use Wi-Fi, so we don't have to put in any more capacity. So,
Hmm.
let's do Wi-Fi calling so you can be using your ISP and your backhaul, but it's so we don't have to do it. And so there's been a series of, let's go to Wi-Fi backhaul. And then they're like, but we want that spectrum. So don't do Wi-Fi. And they're just fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
Because I used to own a telephone company like decades ago, and we would buy bulk minutes from Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, whoever, and then resell the minutes to
Right.
our customers, because long distance was where you made the money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and there is no money in long distance. There's no money in a phone line. So you just have to adapt. And so telcos are just same with cable TV operators. They're more just ISPs now than anything else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which is, I mean, an amazing shift, right? And it requires an entirely new set of people. You know, they
I don't know. I've worked with a lot of cable companies. They still have their old people who built head ends. And
yeah,
you're like, just because you built a head end does not mean you understand Wi-Fi, let alone just how IP packets go.
mm-hmm.
Coax. But one cool thing I did learn, they were running 4,000 QAM in the cable TV world long time ago, like
Oh,
20 years
really?
ago. Yeah, and we're just barely getting there now. Well, they have a bounded media. You have a lot better chance of getting that to work.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. And but that's what's so interesting about all this, right? Because it's Wi-Fi was consumer first, right? Just like the internet. Wi-Fi was consumer first. And so people experienced it as something that they do, not something that their service provider does for them. And now you have this clash of sort of the am I supposed to DIY? Am I supposed to be the one who does this? Am I supposed to be the one who's responsible for this or not? Who is? The ISPs don't want to be responsible for it because it sucks and it's expensive to fix things. But at the same time, consumers don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't have to know what they're doing, you know?
And it really comes to head in MDUs where there's multiple dwellings together, apartment complexes, and we have a lot more of those today. Where if I'm an apartment owner, I don't want you to have your own Wi-Fi. I don't even want you to have your own router. I don't want you to have anything of your own,
No, that
because
would be
we know they're
crazy.
going to
Yeah.
fight.
Right.
I had one big complex that had me come in. They had like 300 units, and they had put in door cams for everyone, and the door cams were PoE,
That's power over Ethernet for
wireless.
those of you who don't know.
Yes. So they were driven by PoE to power them. And instead of pulling like a Cat6 cable to them, they pulled a 2-wire cable and then put a RJ45 on the end to deliver PoE. So they pulled the cable to the actual video camera, but the video camera was wireless. And so now they have 320 cameras streaming full time over the air, and there is no Wi-Fi working in the building.
But the
And
wire
yet
would
they
have already
had
been there
pulled
for
a
them to
cable
use
to
it.
it. So sometimes people just don't finish thinking thoughts all the way through. And or a lot of the problem we have a lot with MDUs today is we have this 1200 megahertz of 6 gigahertz capacity. It's huge. 59 separate 20 megahertz channels. We could do so much with that in an MDU, give each person their own. But MDUs have got sucked into this dynamic PSK. They call it MPSK, PPSK, but it's a way of having a different PSK for each user. It does not work in 6 gig because 6 gig requires WPA3, and WPA3 says you can't do that thing because it's weak security wise. So here the MDUs have this need, and they've plugged the hole with a broken thing. They just said, "Oh, we'll just give everyone their own PSK," and so when you leave, we'll give you a new one. instead, we could have .1x where everyone actually has a
Mm-hmm.
real secure thing.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they're like,
which is
oh,
what
but
you would
doggone,
do
look,
in a situation where you have multiple people that are all connecting to the
you
same network,
you
but they
would
need to be separate.
you
Like,
you would think, but the MDU owners are like, but we just have this secretary who checks them in and rents them a room, and they give them their key, and we give them a PSK. Well,
yeah,
all you had to do is like a little teeny work, and you could have had an account for them, and they could have had .1x. But it comes back, and this is a problem that's, and I don't want to slam on the Wi-Fi LANs because I understand they have issues with the way their governance works, that their vendors are their members.
mm,
But they've never said there is enterprise Wi-Fi that supports .1x and there's home Wi-Fi that doesn't. And so that differentiation, if people are out buying things saying, oh, I bought an Xbox, Xbox can't do .1x. So the kids take them to college. That means the colleges have to
no,
not use good security in the dorms
right,
because they have to support this Xbox. What it could have
right,
been fixed way before is if the Wi-Fi Alliance said, oh, you need to have .1x in your code. It would have solved. And so we would actually have the same solution today. But in MDUs, people go, but I got a new PS5 and it doesn't support .1x. So they
yeah,
have to go to just the PSK thing, which is now meaning they don't have 1200 megahertz of spectrum they could be using.
yeah, man, man, it's like so deep.
Which it comes down to the word standard.
Hmm.
The current standard is thousands of pages long, and probably I would guess less than 10% of it is the standard, and 90% of it are options.
Oh, yeah,
And you say standard, but wait, what do you mean options? Oh, well, this vendor said
it's a
we could do it
huge
this
problem.
way.
Yeah.
So IEEE actually says this is a standard and it's full of optionals.
Hmm. Hmm. It's right.
And
And I mean,
that's
and
not just Wi-Fi,
as
by the
somebody who's
way.
in the thick of that,
Yeah.
like in standards creation, it's a real problem because it's hard. It has to do, like you said, sometimes it has to do with governance. Sometimes it has to do with just like the 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 way the policies of the way the standards are made, right? Is it by consensus or whatever? And so as a person who has to manage that process, sometimes you can't say no. And so instead of saying no, you say, no, but you can do this. And that's how you end up getting thousands of pages of options.
And but they can say, oh, the way I do it, it's in the standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't see any of that getting any better. It's just sad.
no. And I mean, the thing that I want to sort of like hit home for people is what it's sort of what you were just saying about all those different use cases. And they are many things like getting off of TV, broadcast television, getting off of telephony. All of those things are things that Wi-Fi was not designed for originally, right? And so there's a huge amount of work, both from engineering and standardization, to now sort of fix that problem. And COVID was basically like the
Definitely
like
lit a
when the table
fire.
just flipped, and we're like, okay, we have to do this now. Like,
Uh, some of it comes down to money in the
yeah,
sense 20 years ago, if you were a big, huge, university hospital, you could go to the cell carriers and say, we don't have good cell service inside, and all of our users, our doctors, our patients, their guests, they need it, and the cell companies would step up and bring in DAS for you. That's an expensive option. And so they then moved to, well, are we going to put a mini tower, a little small, a micro cell, or all these other things? And then in comes Wi-Fi, and the hospital now has Wi-Fi everywhere. And the cell companies just go, let's just turn on Wi-Fi calling. And so now we don't need to have any capacity.
yeah,
Our customers still think they're on AT&T or Verizon. They make a phone call, but we didn't have to have it go over our network. But as
right.
soon as it drops outside onto the internet, it hits one of ours and we control it the whole rest of the way. It was like a wonderful thing for them. But now a hospital's Wi-Fi has to support that.
Right.
because the customers expect it.
Right.
I have a hospital company who came back and they bought iPhones for all of their staff because they found the Android phones couldn't do the Wi-Fi calling the way they wanted. They can, but they just had done a test.
Right.
And so they
Yeah.
said it's cheaper to just buy all new phones than it is to deal with DAS or cellular like just solve it a different way.
Yeah.
And I come on, I'm like, I could have just fixed your Wi-Fi and then you wouldn't have to buy anything.
And it's like, damn it, Apple wins again. So what would you say? Like if you were to, if you had your regular sales pitch of like, well, you could have just paid me to fix your Wi-Fi. Like, how is it that you usually approach people about that? Because that's a tough message. Like, as somebody who's sort of explored the world of consulting, right? Telling telling people that they're wrong in ways that they don't know is a tough sell, right?
I found, I mean, I haven't had to market my consulting practice for 20 years because there's a word of mouth enough people go, oh,
Right.
this guy, he can actually make it work and you don't have to sell anything. I found usually that first visit is, and I did make it something called a Wi-Fi checklist that anyone can use. It's free. It's on my website that has a list of things that how you should have your Wi-Fi configured. I would say 80% of the times I get called on a consulting thing, within 5 minutes, I've found the problems just off of looking at the checklist. They just configured it wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really simple things, because usually here's the problem in our industry. Someone needs Wi-Fi. So they find a reseller. The reseller puts something in, they do some offline design, and it's cheaper to do the design in a little room, not even go on site. So some guy uses Ekahau or Hamana or some other tool. They draw a picture. It's all green. Somebody installs it. They light it all up and it doesn't work. Well, there was a whole bunch of missing steps in there. One, no one ever went on site to figure out, is that wall actually lead lined or is it brick or is there a brick with, rebar behind it? No one ever knew. And so now there's a dead zone, but the predictive model didn't show it. And
Right.
so they try ways to get around it. It's really simple. You ingest good information about the site. You then use that exact same tool to design. And then here's the trick. I'll tell everyone the secret. After you install, you validate it. In the cable world, you pay someone to put in a Cat 6 cable. They give you a report that shows every single jack met Cat 6 spec.
Yeah.
You install Wi-Fi and they say, look I give you
See you
a
later.
picture. Yeah. Like no one ever actually tests to see, and it's invisible. So you can't even see it. And then it's
Yeah.
only based on complaints. So if you just do a validation survey right after the install, you'll find the issues now and
Right.
fix them now. And then you don't really have to do it later. And the second one that we're in right now that's pretty bad is people have put in Wi-Fi 4 and then they upgraded to Wi-Fi 5. They might have went to Wi-Fi 6 and they're putting Wi-Fi 7 and they never redesigned. They just take the same AP, unplug it, put a new one in.
Yeah.
And yet the requirements have changed.
Mhm.
The technology's changed. And they're like, but that's where I have the cable.
Right.
Yes, that is where you have the cable, but that is not the best place to do this. And then
Right.
I show up on site and they're like, how come it's not working? And I look up like, have you moved that cable in 20 years? Well, no. Well, but 20 years ago, you didn't even have iPhones. And now you're designing for multiple iPhones and iPads and Macs. Your capacity changed. You didn't change your network? But the cable.
Hey, though, I have empathy for that though, because moving that cable or extending that cable in some way is an immediate set of a set of things that I was never prepared to do, and I'm not going to do it right now.
I want to go back to all the Bixby guys, the ones who are designing the cable plant, and just say, please don't put them out to 80 meters, put them out at 70 meters and give me a 10-meter service loop. Because if I have 10 meters to move, I can solve all sorts of things.
Oh, man.
It's like just one little difference.
Oh man, my heart! Like I was just fixing a problem for a friend at their salon, and whoever they had hired to come and do this before was the kind of person who made everything exactly as long as it needed to be. Like exactly.
Like you can't even pull it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
No
like,
slack.
why would you do that to anyone? You might as well glued and zip tied the whole thing too.
They probably would get their zip ties out and then trim them perfectly too.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, now it's like you said, there's absolutely no flexibility whatsoever. And it's like, sometimes you have to move stuff around, right? I'm sorry if it doesn't look good, but good Lord.
To solve that, the guys at Bixby who do the low voltage stuff came up with this design plan that you just put all your cable drops in a grid. So they're just sitting out there, and then later you can do whatever you want. The problem is that grid pattern, it works for cable. And then people look at that and go, oh, that means I should put an AP at every one of those intersections.
No.
They do.
Yeah. Well,
it's fun though.
It is fun.
We don't have
fun.
Any lack of work. So that's always good.
Exactly. And I appreciate the things that I appreciate about this industry is that you can be passionate about something like that and have it pay off, right? And it's like, and it is neat, right? It is neat. It's like we used to just say back, my friend and I about, when we were first taking like multidimensional calculus, and we're like, wow, this is black magic. And like, we're like, yeah, it basically works on it's nobody, it's basically a big mystery, right? No, it's like, no. I mean, I understand physics is real and people do know how it works, but for the most part, it's like you got to play with it and you get to play with it, right? And then we get rewarded and paid to get to play with this cool stuff. It's like
I've had a wonderful career playing with this stuff, fixing it all over the world. So
it's awesome.
Wi-Fi can take you anywhere. Or
that's the title of the episode. Thank you. Yeah. That's the title of the episode. Love it. All right. Thank you very much, sir. I really, really appreciate you coming on. It's like I said, I was like, why have I never got Keith on? That's stupid. Let's do it.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. You got his name perfect. So yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. Like I have had a lot of practice trying to say his name. Yeah, I'm really glad that you ended on that because so other than my usual spiel, making sure you guys subscribe and stuff like that. If you got this far, I assume you have already, but that's great. Like, the thing that I like to end the show saying though is own the nerdy things you love and have fun doing them. And I really think that you capture that pretty well, Keith. So thank you for being on.
Great. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Cheers.